This is CBC Here and Now.
U.S. and Canadian Coast Guard, Air National Guard aircraft, and the Polar Prince, which is searched a combined 7,600 square miles, an area larger than the state of Connecticut.
As you get more and more hypothermic, you will lose consciousness.
This sub has 7 different return to the surface backup systems.
Well, tonight, it's a race against time to find Titan, the missing Titanic-bound submersible.
I don't know, where is Omar? What happened to him? Nobody tell me the truth.
A desperate plea from a worried friend and roommate. What happened to Omar Mohammed? We continue to follow that story tonight. Good evening and welcome to Here and Now. We begin with the ongoing search for the Titan, the missing submersible lost in the North Atlantic. Now, just over an hour ago, an American military plane touched down at St. John's International Airport. It's carrying another submersible, which will be used in the search efforts. Flatbed trucks are standing by for transport. Now, this is one of 3 planes on the way. The other 2 are expected to arrive tomorrow. So let's go now to Heather Gillis, who has been following this story from the start. So Heather, what's the latest?
Carolyn, there is still no sign of Titan. That's the sub that went missing en route to the Titanic. It's now a race against time. Experts estimate the crew has less than 40 hours of oxygen left. Now, the search continued today, and it's going to go on into tonight, with St. John's being used as a base to deploy equipment as needed should the Titan, the submersible, be found along with its crew. Now, this is an international search effort. We're going to have all of the details on this just a little later in the show.
Sorry about that. We're having a little bit of technical issues here. We're going to actually go back to Heather's item on the search for the Titan.
En route to the famous shipwreck, the Titan submersible is still missing somewhere in the vast North Atlantic Ocean. It and 5 people inside haven't been heard from since Sunday, about 380 nautical miles off St. John's. Rescue Coordinator Captain Jamie Frederick with the U.S. Coast Guard in Boston says U.S. and Canadian Coast Guards and Navies have searched 7,600 square miles by air and by sea.
These search efforts have focused on both surface, with C-130 aircraft searching by sight and with radar, and subsurface with P-3 aircraft were able to drop and monitor sonar buoys. To date, those search efforts have not yielded any results.
Frederick calls the operation complex, one the U.S. Coast Guard doesn't have the expertise or equipment to carry out on its own. The Royal Canadian Navy ship Glace Bay has a specialized medical team and a hyperbaric chamber. It will reach the area Thursday, while private ships like Technip's Deep Energy are searching Titan's last known location near the Titanic wreck. That ship is a familiar sight in St. John's Harbor and the offshore oil industry. It's using an ROV to search the sea. St. John's will be a staging area used to deploy ships and equipment like the submarine inside this U.S. Air Force plane. The Coast Guard's federal minister in this country says they're doing everything they can to help.
The CCGS John Cabot has sonar, and it is headed to the site. There are 2 other Canadian Coast Guard ships that were there but are now in St. John's, ready to port equipment as necessary.
But with less than 40 hours of oxygen on board, time is running out for the 5 confirmed on board, including OceanGate CEO Stockton Rush. CBS News correspondent David Pogue knows what it's like to be inside Titan. He says there's 7 ways it can return to the surface.
Sandbags that drop off, lead pipes that drop off, the legs can drop off, there's an air balloon, there's thrusters, and one of them works even if everybody on board is unconscious. So one of them is a timed release thing that sends the sub to the surface after X amount of hours. So maybe they're out there bobbing away, but remember, they're bolted in from the outside.
The sub lost communication within 2 hours of its journey. He worries it could be near the ocean floor. And with no sign of Titan, experts like this retired U.S. Navy submarine commander are left to speculate.
So I fear they're down on the bottom. Again, something could have happened. There could have been a leak which let water into the submarine. They could have got, maybe they were very close to that Titanic and then the current pushed them and they somehow got snagged or caught.
And while there is still no word on what happened to the Titan, the U.S. Coast Guard says it is going to keep searching tonight, and all of their efforts are focused on finding it. And if they do find Titan, well, then the U.S. Coast Guard, which is leading this mission, says then they will focus on how to rescue the people who are inside.
Thank you so much, Heather. That's Heather Gillis reporting live. Well, crews are racing against the clock to find Titan, as we said. So what do we know about the people on board? Well, all 5 people have been identified, and here's what we can tell you about them. Shahzada Dawood is said to be on board along with his son. The pair is originally from Pakistan but now live in the UK. Dawood holds a top job with a Pakistani chemical company and, according to the New York Times, comes from one of the wealthiest families in the country. Now, Hamish Harding is a British pilot, businessman, and explorer. He's already been to the deepest part of the ocean. He also flew to space in 2022 as part of the Jeff Bezos space flight. Harding is married with 2 children. And according to French media, Paul-Henri Nargeolet is also on board. The 77-year-old is one of the foremost experts on the Titanic wreck. He's traveled down multiple times and has overseen the recovery of more than 5,000 objects from the ship.
Hi, my name is Stockton Rush. I'm the CEO and founder of OceanGate. Let's take a look at Titan.
And we can confirm that Stockton Rush, the head of OceanGate Expeditions, is the sole employee on board. We've spoken with Rush on several occasions over the years, including getting this tour of the missing submersible. He previously told CBC News that the goal of these expeditions is to learn more about the wreckage, the ecology of the environment, and the condition of the Titanic. And as we mentioned, the U.S. Coast Guard believes the 5 people on board have less than 40 hours of oxygen left, but there are more concerns than having enough air. Dr. Ken Leday is a hyperbaric medicine specialist at MUN. He says there are other dangers like carbon monoxide poisoning and hypothermia.
All 3 of them could lead to a loss of consciousness. As you get more and more hypothermic, you will lose consciousness and lose the ability to even use your muscles or manipulate any controls. Hypoxia, the low oxygen, that kind of sneaks up on you, and you get very little warning about loss of consciousness. The carbon dioxide on its own won't cause a loss of consciousness until the levels get very high. But above levels of 60, 70, 80 millimeters of mercury of carbon dioxide, you'll start to get sedation. It acts like an anesthetic gas, in fact, and you'll get more and more sedated. By the time they get to that, and you'll get distressed too, because it'll force you into breathing faster, your heart rate will go up. But in combination, these 3 things, low temperature, low oxygen, and high carbon dioxide, all those things will act, together, what we call synergistically, to have a really treacherous conditions.
Of course, we're not done with this developing story. More on the search efforts for Titan and the race against time for rescue crews. That's still to come on Here and Now.
It's a pretty beautiful day out there across a good chunk of the province. High pressure keeping things absolutely gorgeous up across Labrador, and clearing skies the story across most of the island today, except again for most of eastern Newfoundland. Still into that rain, drizzle and fog out there. Unfortunately, we do have some, all that warmer air up there, but keeping us in that onshore flow is keeping those temperatures cool out there. Look at this, 4 to 7 degrees, well, 8 to 7 degrees really. 4 to 8 degrees across the northeast coast. You go towards the west coast, much nicer. 22 in Port aux Basques, the hot spot. Nain at 28 degrees, but at least the fog isn't as dense as it has been over the last little bit. Down to 4 right now in St. John's. We do have the first day of summer tomorrow. We're looking at that starting as of 12:27 p.m. But before we get there, we're going to talk about some frost. Frost advisory in place for a good chunk of the island tonight. We'll talk about that and what to expect for the first official day of summer when I come back.
More charges have been laid against 2 St. John's men accused of abusing minors, abuse that allegedly occurred as recently as 2021. 2 neighbors, Tony Humby and Bruce Escott, already face a number of charges related to sexual violence against youth. These new charges are in connection with crimes against 2 males, both of whom were youth in St. John's at the time. Humby faces charges of sexual assault, forcible confinement, and sexual exploitation. The 2 accused men are in custody while police continue to investigate. What happened to Omar Mohammed? A St. John's man is waiting for his roommate to return, but fears he was shot and killed by police. He says he called 911 a week ago, worried when his fellow Sudanese friend didn't come home, and he's still waiting. The CBC's Ariana Kelland has more on this story, but first a warning, some may find the details disturbing.
This is where Omar used to sleep.
Hard to believe. 2 adult men typically sleep in this small bedsitter. Shaul William on the floor, his friend Omar Mohammed on the bed. Fruit bought last Monday now showing its age. William won't touch it. After all, he says he doesn't know for sure his roommate isn't coming home.
Nobody tell me the truth. Nobody showed me that your friend was killed or died. How do I prove that?
His things untouched since last Monday, when William says Mohammed got showered, ate breakfast, and left.
Omar need a place to stay. That's what he died for. He want to pick up a rental shack. Poor guy. He just need a rental shack to sleep. Instead to stay with me in this tiny room.
Less than 2 hours later, someone at a government office on the other side of town was shot and killed by police. An officer was injured, hospitalized, and released. And Mohammed hasn't returned.
You never had the news? I said, what news? Our local news. I said, no. Yes, they told me your friend been shot. I said, no. Hell no. I told them no. No, Omar, no, it's not Omar. I say, yeah. You got to make sure, buddy. That's why I called the police. I need help from police. I tell them I lost somebody with mental problem. I lost somebody, he had mentality not okay. Please find it out and help me, let me know what happened to him. From that time, nobody calls until these people.
These people, the Serious Incident Response Team, called yesterday, asking to meet William tomorrow, a meeting that will likely confirm something he's struggling to accept. Years of trying to help his friend, of doctors trying too, he says, now lost.
All my efforts, 14 years, whatever, gone, just like that. I wish I could treat Omar and make him a better man.
Mohammed was a child soldier in Darfur before coming to Canada, consumed by the death he'd witnessed and the violence still happening today.
I told him Canada is safe, stay here in Canada. We will try, doctors will try to do your everybody level best to you, make you a good man and forget about what happened and start a new life. I didn't know they're going to kill him. What a difference. What a difference now. They kill him here, they kill him in Darfur, they kill him here.
But what happens inside this building remains unknown. Mohammed has a criminal record, was wanted for breaching court orders. Did that play a part? His friends are left with many questions. Sir Danell is investigating the police shooting, but had no update today. Ariana Kelland, CBC News, St. John's.
Well, it's a partial victory for plaintiffs challenging the Qalipu First Nation enrollment process in Supreme Court. A judge did not strike down the controversial supplemental agreement, which changed the criteria for membership in Qalipu, but she did find that plaintiffs faced membership oppression. Here Now's Daryl Roberts explains.
Burdensome, harsh, and wrongful. That's how Justice Valerie Marshall described the conduct of the Federation of Newfoundland Indians in an 80-page decision released on Monday. Marshall found the FNI failed to follow its own bylaws when it entered into a supplemental agreement with the federal government in 2013. The agreement changed the enrollment criteria for Qalipu First Nation and meant thousands of founding members of the Mi'kmaq group were rejected. The plaintiffs in this case want that agreement thrown out. But Marshall isn't going that far. Instead, she ordered that the FNI reassess the plaintiffs for membership in the Mi'kmaq band. She's also ordering the FNI to pay costs, including possible compensation. However, her decision is limited to the 5 plaintiffs, meaning thousands of other members who were rejected from Qalipu First Nation will not be reassessed. Marshall says Ottawa's actions did not constitute membership oppression, but she said Ottawa did pressure the FNI to change the enrollment criteria for Qalipu First Nation. Keith Morgan, the lawyer for the plaintiffs, said the outcome is good news for members who want a second chance.
It gives us a route forward to be able to potentially deal with the issue of their exclusion from membership in the Qalipu band.
Morgan says his clients are looking at next steps, and a class action lawsuit against the Attorney General of Canada is ongoing. Daryl Roberts, CBC News, St. John's.
The Dr. H. Bliss Murphy Cancer Center officially opened its new chemotherapy unit this morning. The new unit has numerous upgrades and provides 32 new treatment spaces. Our cameras were there to take in the event.
3, 2, 1, here we go.
Currently, we have 18 spaces in our current chemotherapy unit to which we can serve patients. This new space will allow 32 spaces in order to be able to look after the patients within our province. We've got isolation rooms which allow us to treat our patients if they have immunocompromised concerns that we need to specialize our treatment, as well as a satellite pharmacy. This will allow an adjacency and a quicker delivery system method which ensures that the patient's receiving their drug at the right time.
It started off back in 2017 when the Cancer Care Program came to the Board of Directors of the Dr. H. Bliss Murphy Cancer Care Foundation and basically signaled to us that it was time for a new chemotherapy unit. The unit downstairs was about 30 years old. It has served us extremely well, but it just got to a point that we were putting more patients through than the space could really accommodate.
Well, a choir in central Newfoundland is performing tonight for the first time since the pandemic started. The Central Cancer Survivors Choir is composed of members from many communities in the area. It's performing tonight at the Badger Community Church. Here Now's Troy Turner dropped by one of the choir's rehearsals and has this story.
The healing power of music. It means more to these singers than most. Each one is joined by a shared experience of being a cancer survivor.
I'm a cancer survivor, 13 years, and I was approached probably about 3 years ago, prior to COVID actually, from Glenn Mullen, a friend of mine, and asked me if I'd like to join. And of course, COVID shut everything down the last 3 years, and when we started back up again a little while ago, I joined.
The choir has 15 members these days, down a little from when it started 22 years ago. Bob Hiscock is enjoying the experience so far.
We get together, lately now once a week, and we have our practices, and it's just a great bit of fun. Just a great bit of fun for the fellowship, and we have a laugh and learning some new songs.
The members acknowledge they're not professionals. It's more about raising money for charity and the camaraderie.
You do put everything into perspective, what really matters and what don't matter, and how you go about your life. And being, like I said, being a survivor, and you start to appreciate a lot of different things in life,
You just sit and you talk about everything that's going on in your lives and your daily life, you know, and family. And yeah, so it's not that you talk about cancer very much, really.
Lorraine Paddock is 34 years cancer-free. She's a charter member of the choir.
We know we've all been there, done that, and we just go on with our lives and just deal with the everyday living.
Glenn Molan was asked to direct the choir by a friend. He was not personally affected by the disease, but a year with the group, and things changed.
I conducted the choir practice, and at the end I said I got an announcement to make. I said, today I was diagnosed with leukemia, and everybody in the choir started to laugh. One man came down to me, Art Griffin came down, and he said, it's never as bad as it first seems. So I said, you'll be fine. And sure enough, he was right.
What's different about this choir from Molan is the audience's reception.
The audience that comes are coming to support a group of cancer survivors. So there's no pressure to be professional and perfect. It's just that we're actually there and showing our joy for music and life that inspires the audience anyway. So it's really, really something to see that dynamic.
Tonight's performance here at the Badger Community Church will be the first in more than 3 years for the Central Cancer Survivors Choir. After that, they'll take a break for summer and then continue with another season beginning in the fall. Troy Turner, CBC News, Badger.
Well, St. John's photo exhibit is capturing more than just portraits. It's also telling the story of newcomers to Newfoundland and Labrador. It's all in honor of World Refugee Day. Here now, Sakib Ibn Rashid Rivu dropped by for a look.
The event today is a photo exhibit of pictures that our clients have taken, that we've taken of our clients at home, on field trips, at school. It's really called, it's a day in the life of a newcomer to Canada. And so we wanted this year to give everyone a sense of, you know, what do our clients do, when, not necessarily when they're in school, but when they're home, when they're on the bus, when they're cooking food, when they're celebrating with friends.
There are 60 photos hanging here at St. John's City Hall. Behind each photo, there's a personal journey.
Before I come Canada, no speak English, no anything. Now I speak English, no long, I speak later.
The Association for New Canadians is teaching hundreds of students English at its language school, just as it's done for 40 years. For one Ukrainian newcomer, those lessons are crucial.
In the life, normal life, I'm okay because here people is very friendly, they understand me. But for my career, it's very important to study English, to study my environment, the people.
Adapting to life in St. John's isn't just about language. It's also about understanding and fitting into a new cultural environment.
One of the things many people don't understand is some of these people that come here have had absolutely no formal education, none whatsoever. So, you know, our job as an instructor is to get them to learn the basics.
The NC says these newcomers bring a wealth of stories, experiences, and economic opportunities with them.
They remind us of how important it is to be kind, compassionate, and understanding and welcoming to anyone who comes to our province, to our country.
The exhibition will be up for public to view for the next 7 days till Monday, 4:30 p.m. And also, NC is planning to make it an annual event to show the progress of the language school students. Sakib Ibn Rashid Rivu, CBC News, St. John's.
Yes, it was another day of rain, drizzle, and fog, but tomorrow the sun will come out. I'll get into the details coming up.
Oh, the sun is going to come out tomorrow. Just before the break, when you said that, I thought you were going to burst into song.
I
with
wanted
like that
to, but
Annie song.
you don't want to hear me sing.
Bet your bottom dollar that tomorrow there will be sun. So we are expecting some sunshine in the northeast tomorrow.
Pretty much across the board tomorrow. We're finally going to see some sunshine, which will be lovely.
Oh, yes. It's going to be great.
It's been a long time. It'll also be a nice day to view some icebergs because there are lots out there still. Wow. And I have this photo to share with you. Thought it was a great iceberg there. This one is from Small Point off a Small Point in Broad Cove.
Looks like a big one.
An arch. Nice arch there. Yeah, Jason shared this photo with me on Twitter today. So thank you very much for that photo. Temperatures not nice out there along the northeast coast at the moment, but take a look at these temperatures through the states up into Canada, central portions of Canada rather. Winnipeg, 35 degrees today, 25 in Toronto. Same thing for Montreal. Some of that warmth edging in up to Nain, 28 degrees. That was the hot spot across the province today. In fact, broke a record. The record was 26.5 degrees, and that was back in 2012. So we're certainly seeing that heat. No records otherwise, even though it certainly feels like it, but 26 degrees in Happy Valley, Goose Bay, 25 in Makkovik. And those temperatures across parts of the west coast anyway, still beautiful. 18 in Corner Brook today, 22 in Port aux Basques. But that northeast coast still chilly. 4 to 7 degrees was the daytime highs. Today, the reason for this warmth, nice ridge of high pressure allowing all that warm air to move in. Still looking at that onshore flow with some cloud cover just to the north at the moment, starting to edge back in. And you can see that on the satellite right now. That will stay there pretty much as we head through the overnight tonight. Things will stay cloudy across the Avalon as well. Likely just in the way of some drizzle and fog patches. The rain we should be done with for the most part. But our temperatures are still fairly chilly. 4 degrees in very chilly. In fact, 4 degrees in St. John's. Still a beautiful evening though as you head further west. Deer Lake at 18, 27 degrees still in Nain. So we are looking at some pretty mild temperatures overnight for the northern portions anyway, at least up across the Big Land. Not a whole lot to talk about tonight. That cloud cover will continue to creep in Bonavista North, Bonavista Peninsula, as well as the Avalon. Otherwise, we're looking at a clear night tonight and then some cloud cover just lingering up across portions of Labrador. Winds will be light tonight as well. So clear conditions, calm conditions as far as those winds are concerned. Temperatures will drop down to around 2 to 4 or 5 degrees. Lowest will be in the low-lying areas through central. We can see those minus single digits overnight tonight. It should stay cloudy, like I said, for the Avalon along the northeast coast and the Bonavista Peninsula. Look at these temperatures up across Labrador, 11 to 14 overnight. We've had a hard time even reaching that for the northeast coast as our daytime highs, never mind overnight lows. But these cool, calm conditions will lead to the potential for some frost, patchy frost tonight. Best chance will be through central. Again, cloud cover though for Bonavista North and Bonavista will limit that potential for some patchy frost. But as we head through the day tomorrow, temperatures will recover absolutely beautifully. We're looking at lots of sunshine through the day. We may see a few cloudy periods in the mix, but overall it will be a lovely start to summer. And we're looking at some cloud cover though moving back in for parts of Labrador, especially towards the coast. You're going to see that potential for a few showers through the day as well. Here's your temperatures for tomorrow. Beautiful. 18 degrees in St. John's tomorrow. Now, if you are towards the coast, temperatures will be a tad cooler than that, especially along the south coast when you're in that southerly flow. 11 degrees for Ferryland, same thing for Placentia. You head towards central, west coast, temperatures, much different story. Twillingate, 24 degrees. You're sitting at 4 right now. 24 degrees will be your daytime high tomorrow. Same thing as you head towards the west coast. Heat very much in place across Labrador. Oh, also, it'll be a bit humid tomorrow, especially across the island. And then particularly up across Labrador, 30 degrees in Happy Valley, Goose Bay. Still looking at that potential for a few showers though. Not going to provide much relief, but I'm sure you'll take these temperatures this time of year. So let's look at your forecast. I'll look ahead when we come back.
I think it's a huge challenge. I think it's very difficult. And of course, If they could pull it up, that causes a lot of challenges also.
More on exactly why time is of the essence for the people on board the submersible lost in the Atlantic Ocean. That's coming up. Well, back to the ongoing search for the crew of the Titan. As we've heard, time is of the essence for the 5 people on board the submersible lost in the Atlantic Ocean. It's estimated the oxygen on board will run out in less than 40 hours, but there are many other concerns besides the crew having enough air to breathe. Joining me now is Dr. Ken Leday. He's a hyperbaric medicine specialist at Memorial University and an anesthesiologist. Thank you so much for being here.
Hello, yes, you're welcome.
As someone who has expertise in the hazards associated with diving, what do you think are some of the biggest survival challenges for this crew right now?
Well, I think there's several. Obviously, you mentioned the oxygen one, so hypoxia, meaning, the dwindling oxygen supplies, and as oxygen decreases, then people would eventually lose consciousness. Hypercarbia, that's excessive carbon dioxide. The system like this would have CO2, carbon dioxide scrubbers, basically a chemical granules that are designed to remove carbon dioxide from the breathing air, and that usually uses electrical power to kind of circulate air through the material to absorb the carbon dioxide. That's important. Hypothermia is another one because the ocean is very, very cold at that type of depth, and there's limits to the insulation, and so likely they rely on electrical power to keep them warm. So those are the three big ones: hypoxia, lack of oxygen; hypercarbia, too much carbon dioxide as it builds up, and getting too cold. And all of those things could lead to inability to function and loss of consciousness. And of course, a big issue is whether they have power or not. Are they in the dark? Do they have light? And power, to operate the different systems that keeps the submersible operating, like circulating air for the CO2 for the carbon dioxide scrubbers, and also does the system they need to add oxygen to the breathing air, does that rely on electronic sensors, which almost certainly it does? Does it rely on electronics to top up the oxygen within the system? Some of these, there might be manual options that they could do, but that only helps if they're conscious and if they can see. We certainly hope that they're all safe and well at the present time. And if they are, though, the rescue from those depths is going to be exceptionally challenging.
Well, that was my next question, actually, because I'm wondering about, the intense, immense pressure. That sub is designed to dive very deep into the ocean, 3,800 meters underwater. What kind of a factor does that pressure create here?
Well, there's very, very few vessels or remote operated vehicles that are capable of that type of pressure. They're below 12,000 feet. And because of the extreme depth, there hasn't been practical. Most of these submersibles are kind of free running. They're not tethered to the surface by a cable. Most remote operated vehicles, even for the deep offshore oil wells and that type of thing, they might be 1,000 feet, between 1,000 and 2,000 feet. Sometimes deeper, but certainly not as deep as this. And they would have an umbilical to the surface with control cables, gas supplies as needed, and they would be able to remotely manipulate robotic arms and that type of stuff. But I don't think there's that capability of having a remote operated vehicle go that deep that's tethered to the surface. Certainly it would be, if there is such a thing in existence, there would be very few in the world, one or two at most, but I'm not sure that exists. So going to that extreme pressure, you'd need to, right now, I think would be another submersible or submarine that had manipulating arms that they might be able to attach some kind of cable onto. I think it's a huge challenge. I think it's very difficult. And of course, if they could pull it up, that causes a lot of challenges also. But let's say the vessel even managed to surface on its own. I don't think they can open it from the inside, even if it was floating on the surface. Best case scenario, then I think they would have to be found by someone else and open for rescue, even on the surface. Extremely challenging, very, very treacherous situation indeed.
Mm-hmm. Well, Dr. Ken Ledet, I'm sure you'll be keeping an eye on this, as will we. Thank you so much for sharing your expertise with us.
Okay, and I certainly hope that things turn out well, but it's certainly very concerning.
It certainly is. Well, the U.S. Coast Guard gave another update on this search this afternoon. There's still been no signs of the Titan, but Captain Jamie Frederick says there's more equipment on the way to St. John's to help with the search.
Since Sunday, the Coast Guard has coordinated search efforts with the U.S. and Canadian Coast Guard, Air National Guard aircraft, and the Polar Prince, which has searched a combined 7,600 square miles, an area larger than the state of Connecticut. These search efforts have focused on both surface, with C-130 aircraft searching by sight and with radar, and subsurface, with P-3 aircraft were able to drop and monitor sonar buoys. To date, those search efforts have not yielded any results. Search efforts have continued through last night and today. Today, the vessel Deep Energy, a 194-meter pipe-laying vessel, arrived on scene with underwater ROV capability. They have rendezvoused with the vessel Polar Prince and commenced an ROV dive at the last known of the position of the Titan and the approximate position of the Titanic wreck. That operation is currently ongoing. Additionally, a Canadian P-3 aircraft is currently conducting a 6-hour search of the area, and several C-130 aircraft and another P-3 are scheduled to fly this afternoon and this evening. The Canadian Coast Guard cutter, or vessel, John Cabot, is scheduled to arrive later this evening, and several other Canadian Coast Guard vessels and the Coast Guard cutter Sycamore are en route. The U.S. Navy's SUPSAL, Supervisor of Salvage and Diving Command, is working with U.S. Transportation Command to bring additional assets to the search area. These more capable assets will be staged at a St. John's for further transport to the search area. There are also several private vessels, research vessels with ROV capabilities that are making preparations to join the efforts. So I want to reiterate, this is a very complex search, and the unified team is working around the clock to bring all available assets and expertise to bear as quickly as possible in an effort to solve this very complex problem.
Well, you're looking at a shot of St. John's Airport just moments ago when a second American military plane landed. It's here to offer support in the search for Titan, the missing submersible. And that search is continuing above and below the water surface. No one has heard from the 5 people on board since Sunday. But David Pogue has firsthand experience on the submersible. The CBS News journalist was on board during an excursion last year. He spoke with CBC's Heather Hiscox this morning about what it's like for the people on board.
What I don't think the public recognizes is that this is not an airline. These submersibles are one-off. There's no spare, there's no previous version, there's one of it. And things go wrong all the time. Out of every week excursion, they have 5 attempts to reach the Titanic, including the week that I was out there. And usually they make it down only once, maybe twice, sometimes not at all. So mechanical problems are par for the course, happens all the time, usually little things.
What then, just having had the experience, what is your thinking in terms of what could have gone wrong in this case?
I mean, really, there's only 3 possibilities. Possibility number 1 is that they are on the surface somewhere, bobbing away. This sub has 7 different return to the surface backup systems. So sandbags that drop off, lead pipes that drop off, the legs can drop off, there's an air balloon, there's thrusters, and one of them works even if everybody on board is unconscious. So one of them is a timed release thing that sends the sub to the surface after X amount of hours. So maybe they're out there bobbing away, but remember, they're bolted in from the outside. So they have no way to get out or get more air. So that's terrifying thing number 1, is that the Coast Guard is just looking for a white capsule in 900 miles of whitecaps. The other possibility is that they're underwater. And that's even scarier, because even if they're alive, if they're down there, even if we find them, if they're down there, we have no way to get them back up.
What is the most worrisome aspect to you right today, this morning?
The single most worrisome aspect is that when they were 2/3 of the way down on Sunday, they lost communication. There's 2 sources of communication. There are these little text messages they can send back and forth to the ship, and then there's safety pings every 15 minutes that just says, we're still here, the sub is still working. Both of those stopped an hour and 45 minutes down, and there are only 2 things that could mean. Either they lost all power, or the ship developed a hull breach and imploded instantly. Both of those are devastatingly hopeless.
Returning now to a story we brought you earlier tonight. It's been a week since Shaul William last saw his roommate, and now he fears he was shot and killed by police. William says he wants answers, but no one seems to have any. He spoke with Here and Now's Ariana Kelland about his concern for his friend and roommate, Omar Mohammed.
Where is Omar? What happened to him? Nobody tell me the truth. Could you believe that? Nobody tell me the truth. Nobody show me that your friend was killed or died. How do I prove that? How am I going to prove it? What happened? Is Omar. And how is this Omar? How they want to kill a mental problem guy? Somebody with mental problem, and everyone knows, police knows, judge knows, judge themselves, they know this guy got a mental problem. How them get to shoot him? There is not other way to control him. Somebody with mental problem, there's so many ways to control him. Not to shoot him. Police gonna shoot all these people with mental problems, no matter what weapon they carry. That's not true. If somebody need to stay, Omar need a place to stay. That's what he died for.
The Labrador in Focus program held a workshop in Sheshatshiu Innu First Nation this month. 9 young people were given CBC cameras to capture their community. You're looking at some of Shandon Nuna's work, and you can find out more on our website, cbc.ca/nl.
I know, I hear you. Although the sun has made a few appearances this week after weeks of gray, you're probably looking at the rest of Canada, even the rest of the province, and thinking it should be warm by now. But you've just forgotten what June is like here. But the word January exists for a reason. Last year, we were spoiled, an average of 18 degrees for June and only 5 days in the single digits. This year, below normal, and we're still waiting for that 20-degree mark. Yeah, it's cool, but that's kind of normal for here in June. What we're likely feeling is the lack of sunshine, and there are a few things that can help with that. Sun lamps can be a big help. There's vitamin D you can take, but definitely get outside, especially when you see those glimmers of sunshine. Just get moving.
That is some great advice.
Just
there.
get moving.
And tomorrow is going to be a great day to get moving. It's going to be the first day of summer.
Yeah, it's going to be lovely.
And then we're looking to the long range forecast. So we're actually looking ahead to the weekend. So it's going to be the first weekend of summer. What's that going to be like?
Well, it looks like we're going to hit our first 20-degree temperature, which will be nice on Thursday at this point. Now, there's a bit of discrepancy with the winds. I think it'll happen though. Let's take a look at what's going to go on. So that air mass that's bringing all of that mild temperatures, those mild temperatures tomorrow across Labrador and then into the island is going to generally stick around, but still looking at the chance of some showers up across Labrador, some sunshine across the island, although it does look a bit more unsettled. So we're still looking at that chance of a few showers, particularly northern peninsula and then even the Avalon. We may see some showers, but you see the temperature 22 degrees is what I have in the forecast. 24 as you head towards Gander. Grand Falls winds are even warmer than that. So about 28 for you. Northern Peninsula, you're going to stay cooler. Same thing along coastal areas of Labrador, but still very much into the 20s for Happy Valley, Goose Bay, and Lab City as well. But again, it will be a bit unsettled. You'll see those showers, especially for Happy Valley, Goose Bay. They'll move in later on in the day on Thursday. As we head into Thursday evening and Friday, still going to hang on to that chance of showers. More widespread, though, across the Big Land as we head into the afternoon and evening hours. May reach the northern peninsula as well. But otherwise, another sunny day for the most part, and temperatures yet again into the 20s. In fact, 29, some models pointing at about 30 degrees through portions of central on Friday. But at this point, keeping it at 29, 24 in St. John's. This is going to feel absolutely beautiful after the weeks of gray. It's certainly going to get you in the mood to plant your flowers, which I'm sure no one has done yet in the metro area. But yeah, it should be nice. 26 as you head towards Corner Brook. Northern Peninsula into the teens, 17 for those of you in St. Anthony, and still looking at temperatures fairly nice. This is still above seasonal across Labrador. Cool though for Nain, around 6 degrees. Long range forecast as we head into the weekend. Looks nice, not wet for the first time in a while. However, some showers will move in as we head into Sunday. So although it'll start beautiful, it will end a tad wet. 18 degrees though. Central Newfoundland, same thing. Nice stretch of weather there, and the West Coast even more beautiful. Sunday looks stunning as well. Even a drop in temperature still keeps you in the 20-degree range. And then for Eastern Labrador, you're looking at a little bit of scattered shower activity here and there through Friday, Saturday. Sunday looks nice. And then same thing for Western Labrador, as your temperatures will stay in the teens after that warm stretch for the next couple of days. Now, this is Tito. He's waiting for summer, or she's waiting for summer, but Chris shared this great shot. Some flowers also waiting for summer. Thank you so much for that. If you have any weather photos you'd like to share with us, send them to Facebook, Twitter, or email them to nlphotos@cbc.ca.
That is so cute. It does look like the flowers and the kitty.
Perfectly placed cat.
Yeah. It's a great shot. Thank you so much for sending that in. And that's it for us on this Tuesday, the day before the first day of summer. Something to celebrate for sure. So I hope you can join us again tomorrow.
Good night.